Welcome to the Road to Memory Sunday. My name is Briana Williams. Sleep affects our overall health. The National Sleep Foundation recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep per day. However, that may be a challenge due to work, stress, and other obstacles. Here are some ways to improve your sleep health. Turn off your electronics, have a warm drink, work out, be consistent, and forget your worries. The total amount of sleep a person receives each day is important. Allow me to introduce Dr. Lauren Whitehurst, Assistant Professor at UK.
Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be with you all on Memory Sunday. This is a fantastic way to spend the month of June. My name is Lauren Whitehurst, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Kentucky. And I am here to talk with you all about sleep. And the title of my talk today is Sleep is Not a Luxury, the Importance of Sleep for Brain Health and Memory. Now, I'm a sleep scientist, so I talk about sleep all day, every day, and I love it. I love talking about sleep so much for mainly two reasons. The first is that everyone sleeps. We all do it. We all have an experience with it. So it's very relatable to so many people. The second is that it's also very intimate. We all have our own personal relationship to sleep. We do it in our own way, in our homes, at night, with our loved ones, or by ourselves, in ways that are uniquely us. And so those two things are not found in everything that you can study as a scientist, but for sleep, it is. And lastly, the reason I love sleep so much is because it's important. It's vital for our health. We know that when we don't get enough sleep, we can expect bad things to happen to our bodies. We can expect increased risk for things like heart attacks when you sleep on average less than 6 hours per night. You can also expect more car accidents. When you sleep less than 4 hours in a night, the next day, or when you're driving, you can expect to have more car accidents on average compared to individuals who are sleeping for more hours. And then really relevant to the last year and a half of our lives kind of taken over by the COVID pandemic, when you don't get enough sleep, you also have an increased risk or susceptibility to viruses. In this particular study, researchers found that those who slept 7 hours or more had a much less risk of contracting the cold virus than those who were sleeping less than 5 hours per night on average the week before they came into the laboratory. And we also know that when we are sick, our bodies crave sleep to help us recover, right? So it's always, if you're sick, get some sleep so that you can start to feel better. But this is Memory Sunday, right? So we need to talk about why sleep is so good for our brains. Now, sleep is a function of our brain. Our brain changes activity patterns to create the state of sleep. And it does that because sleep is for our brains. It protects our brains from the buildup and the accumulation of energy that our brains have to use. The byproducts of that get pushed away during sleep. So sleep is not only of the brain or by the brain, it's for our brains. And one of the main behaviors that our brains do that sleep is valuable for is memory. Now, sometimes we think about memory as, the memory of a specific event in our mind, but our brains are constantly engaging in memory to help us navigate our worlds. We have to learn about the world and about the experiences that we have so that the next time we see something, we have something to pull from. We can navigate our worlds with less energy from ourselves and from our bodies. And that's critical for our adaptability, our ability to navigate the world and do so successfully. One way sleep helps support our memory is through this process of replay. So when we are up and walking throughout the world, our neurons in our brain, which you can imagine are these orange and blue and green slashes, are taking in that information. Taking in the information of when you parked your car in the parking lot and you went into the store and you bought the milk and then you went to the car and you drove home. Your brains are encoding that information. And then when you go to sleep at night, those same neurons are replaying that information, kind of like a movie reel of the things and the experiences that you had. Sometimes they even show up in your dreams. And that replay of information allows you to really situate that information in your brain so that later, the next day, when you wake up and you say, oh man, I need to grab that milk, your brain says, oh, nope, you got it yesterday. And this has been shown in studies where individuals who don't have sleep have a harder time remembering the information or a higher risk of forgetting compared to individuals who did get sleep. Sleep's also really important for our brain health, for keeping our brains healthy for longer across our lifespan. Throughout Memory Sunday, you may have heard a little bit about these amyloid plaques, or this buildup of this protein of amyloid. That protein is a typical protein, amyloid. It happens in our brain when our cells exert energy. But these plaques are the buildup of that protein, and it creates this sticky space here that can start to kind of hold on to our cells and eventually lead to cell death. They're really characteristic of what happens in our brains during Alzheimer's disease, such that there's an increased risk of cell death because of these plaques. Now, when we go to sleep at night, our brain actually clears out that amyloid so that it's less likely to build up into these plaques. Studies have also shown that sleep disturbance across your lifespan can actually predict the amount of amyloid you have in your brain. And that's exciting, right? We can use sleep, we can leverage sleep as a way to help us protect ourselves and protect our brains from the harmful things that can occur throughout the waking day. Now, understanding the significance of sleep to protecting the brain and supporting our memories led me to some questions in my lab about who actually gets the sleep that science says that we need. And you know, this question is really rooted in the idea that though sleep is important, and though we've all been told that sleep is important, there's a lot of people who don't get the sleep that they need to protect their bodies and their brains from degradation of the day. Now, because of the intimate nature of sleep, when I ask that question to people, you know, do you feel like you can get the sleep that you need? Almost everyone says no. No one gets the sleep that they think that their bodies need. It feels so commonplace for so many of us to be sleep deprived. Yet, the data suggests that some individuals are getting significantly less sleep than others. Specifically, Black and Latinx people, working class people, and poor people are at an increased risk for sleep deprivation. On average, the data suggests that non-white people get less sleep. And when you look at this geographically, states where Black and Latinx and Indigenous people live also sleep less on average. Now, these sleep inequities have real consequences for health. As it relates to cognitive health, Black and Latinx Black and Latinx people are at disproportionate risk for Alzheimer's disease and dementia compared to other racial groups. Specifically, Black Americans are at 2 times the risk for Alzheimer's disease and dementia than white Americans. Also, I do think it's important for me to state that these racial disparities, specifically those targeting Black people, are not without historical context. Sleep in America has often been accessed by the privileged and powerful and demonized when engaged in by the marginalized. In antebellum America, My enslaved ancestors were violently whipped if they overslept. Indeed, in Frederick Douglass's autobiography, after he recounts the terrible conditions in which the enslaved slept on various plantations, including not having blankets to protect themselves from the winter, Frederick Douglass goes on to state that more slaves are whipped for oversleeping on a plantation than any other fault. This punishment for sleep and rest emerging from slavery shaped the way in which we conceptualize society today and conceptualize sleep in our society today. To engage in rest or sleep became synonymous with laziness or lacking ambition. This false narrative has been adopted and harms those from marginalized groups the most. Poor people and those from marginalized racial groups are more likely to work more than one job and work jobs that include shift work or working at night when your body prefers to sleep. And data I'm showing you here shows that Black individuals are the most likely to work a non-daytime work schedule or work at night. To put this in context, shift work is significantly tied to cognitive losses and has been tied to an increased risk for cancer by the World Health Organization since 2007. The cost of rest in public and private spaces for marginalized people has also trickled into our collective consciousness, into the media, into our discourse in a variety of ways over the last few years. For example, a Black graduate student at Yale University had the cops called on them for taking a nap in a public space in their dorm. Last summer, when Briana Taylor was murdered in her bed while she was sleeping, I was particularly shaken to the core because that became one less place where Black people could sleep safely. So this is our shared reality. And many of the changes that would allow us to sleep more safely are not on us as individuals. Some of these changes are systemic, social justice work, requires substantive changes to the way our worlds have been shaped. But there are some things that we can engage in, some things that we can do. Here are some tips. First, get rid of the guilt. The things that we think are critical to our health, our brain health, our metabolism, our emotional and mental health, our heart health, our immune health. Sleep is critical to all of them. If you can center sleep in your relationship, it's really going to go a long way to protecting you from an increased risk for disease from all of these different areas. I usually tell people that sleep is as fundamental to your body as drinking water or eating food. Treat it that way. Second, sleep signals come from all over the place, right? Get 8 hours, get 8 hours. That's something that we've heard for a really long time. I'm here to debunk that myth. Our sleep need changes across our lifespan. So it's important for you to define your own sleep need. Figure out how much sleep you actually need. For example, individuals in their teenage years and their young adulthood up to 64 years need anywhere between 7 and 9 hours. Older adults, individuals over the age of 65, need a different amount of sleep. What I usually suggest for you to define your own personal sleep need is give yourself a couple of days, maybe when you're not working, when you're on vacation, and give yourself time to just sleep when you get sleepy and wake up when you no longer need sleep. Over a couple of days, see how many hours you're sleeping on average and see when your body gets sleepy and when you need to wake up. Figure out that and set that as your sleep time. Then once you've defined it, prioritize it. Identify a safe sleep environment for yourself amongst people who you trust in a space where you feel safe. Identify that place and sleep there any chance you get. And then schedule it. Schedule your sleep like you schedule anything else in your life. Put it at the top of your list. Set an alarm for when you should go to bed at night and set an alarm for when you wake up in the morning. That regularity from that alarm clock will allow you to really set a priority in your body for your sleep need. You'll start to realize that you'll get sleepy before your alarm goes off. And sometimes you'll even wake up maybe a minute or two before your alarm in the morning goes off. That's a good sign that you're getting the amount of sleep that you need because you've prioritized it. Now with that, I want to thank you all for your attention and wish you all good sleep.
Memory Sunday is June 13th, 2021. For more information, contact Marquita Yarbrough of the Sanders Brown Center on Aging at telephone number 859-218-3867.